What if the real issue is not needing more time, it's not needing more money, or not even needing more energy, but the real issue is how you're viewing what you already have? I'm talking about the real issue of your discontent, the issue that you're feeling that you're burned out, that your boss sucks, or your job is not good enough, or even people that you're serving with, you're not happy about. It's not because of what's lacking, but because you're focusing on the wrong thing. And because of that, it's causing unnecessary discontentment, unnecessary stress in your life. And it's affecting not just you, but it's affecting the people who matter most to you. Now, for today's talk, I want us to dive into this big idea that the limitations you're facing are not about your resources, but it's about your perspective. When you stop focusing on what's missing and start focusing on what God has already provided to you, everything changes. Now, before we dive in, I just want to quickly introduce myself. If this is your first time, my name is Ezekiel. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I love Jesus. And my passion for this channel is to serve other dads and husbands who are faith-driven, who are passionate and committed to learn how to lead better, both in their homes, in their workplaces, in their ministries, without burning out, so that they can create margin for the people who matter most and ultimately glorify Jesus. And in this channel, we're going to be diving into mindset, breaking unhealthy mindset and reshifting who we are in God, and also talk about tools that we can implement so that we can be the best dads, the best husbands we can be for our wives, for our kids, and for those people that God called us to serve. So today, I want us to dive into this topic of the limitations that keeping us stuck. It's not a resource matter, but how we view our current circumstances. For many of us, it's not the lack of money, not the lack of time, but it's about our perspective that's keeping us stuck from the life that God has called us to live. Now, let's be honest. We often get stuck in this slide that we're not enough. We play this playlist in our minds of our failures, of the negative things that people said about us. And a lot of times we play these playlists of the things that we assume people are saying about us. And because of that, we look at others weird. We look at our situation weird. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us limited. It disables us. It keeps us distracted from being the man that God called us to be. We had this conversation with my 11-year-old, I think it was a week ago. My wife and I, we were driving with him after we dropped off the girls to their small group. And we asked him, what do you want to be when you grow up? And confidently he said, I want to be a basketball player. I want to play for the NBA. And if that doesn't work out, maybe I'll be a movie actor, or actually maybe I'll play overseas. And think about it. When you were young, when someone asked you what you wanted to be, you probably wanted to be a superhero. The sky was the limit when it came to the dreams that we wanted to do. But over the years, as we grew older, as we gained experiences, as we dropped the ball in growing up, we started having this playlist, the default playlist that I'm not good enough. Now today, I want us to look at the life of Samson in Judges 16. That's exactly where Samson found himself. He was blind, he was in prison, and he was humiliated because of his perpetual disobedience to God. He lost his strength, his freedom, and he even lost his sight. And in his mind, his failures was the final chapter of his life. He thought in his mind that his failures was his identity. And for us, that lie shows up. We probably don't see it, but that lie shows up that our identity is tied to our performance. What happens is that we overcommit at work, thinking that if we make more hours, then finally we can feel like we're enough. We're always striving for that next job title, that next job opportunities without thinking, is that what's best for my family? Is that where God is leading me? And then when we move to that next chapter in our career, we find ourselves burned out. Now, let me dive into these other areas of our life. For some of us faith-driven dads, we pour ourselves into ministry, but we neglect the very people God called us to serve at home. I'm not saying that serving is wrong. My wife and I were passionate about serving. We've served for many years, but we get into this vicious cycle and it's exhausting because of our perspective. We think that if we do enough, then maybe I can feel good enough. We have the wrong idea of where we are, what God is doing. And because of that, it creates this vicious cycle and it's very exhausting. Now, here's the good news. Samson's story was not over and neither is yours. While Samson was sitting in prison, when he felt broken, when he felt defeated, when he felt that was the final part of his life, that defined him, his hair started to grow back. Now, the detail was not just about his hair, but it was a sign of God's grace. Samson thought that his strength and God's love was gone forever, but God was still working in him. And when he shifted his focus from his failures to God's power, everything changed. The same is true for you. God has already placed tools, He's already placed resources, and He's already placed opportunities right now to help you simplify your work, to create margin for what matters most, to build connection with your wife, to build connection with your kids. You're not seeing the resources, the blessings that God has already dispensed for you where you are right now because you're too focused on what you're lacking. When you stop striving in your own strength and start leaning into His, you'll find clarity and energy that you need to lead well at home, at work, and also in the community, in the church. Now you're saying, you know what, that sounds good in theory, but what does it look like on a Monday morning? So let's break it down into 4 simple ways where you can start shifting from that mindset of not enough, that mindset of not good enough, to a mindset of more than enough. I'm talking about shifting from a scarcity mindset to a mindset of strength, to a mindset of abundance. So step number 1 is to recognize the lies you believe. What are the lies you've been telling yourself? That you're not enough, that your past disqualifies you? I want you to spend maybe during this time, you can pause this video and write down what are those lies that I believe over the years. Here's the thing. If you don't identify what's holding you back, you cannot fight it. In other words, you cannot fight what you don't identify. Now, for me, one comment someone made about my speaking many years ago, it really disabled me. It kept me from actually speaking. Because of that one comment from a person that I respected, I felt like this is not for me. It's not what God has for me. And I suppress what the gift that God has given me. I didn't want to share what God is doing in my life. And over the years, I realized that it was a distraction from the enemy. I'm not saying that that person is the enemy, but I'm saying that people's comments about you may not be true. That's why it's important to take those comments, take those lies, and really identify, are those things really true or are they a lie? And start replacing that with God's truth in your life. For you, maybe it's a boss who said that you'll never succeed, that you're not a good leader. Or maybe it's a parent that made you feel that you never measure up, that you're not good enough. Whatever it is, those lies are not from God. And those lies are not your identity. And today is the day that I believe that you're listening to this because those lies have been keeping you stuck for many years. And God wants to break those lies because He has so much more for you. It's not a matter of what you don't have, but it's a matter of how you're seeing what you have, what God has already provided to you. It's not a resource limitations, but it's a perspective issue. Shift number 2 is to shift your focus to what you already have. One of the thoughts that has helped me over the years, I learned this from the pandemic from a pastor named Michael Todd. He said that everything that you have right now is all that you need to accomplish what God has already called you in this assignment. Everything that you have, what you have in your possession, the experiences, the resources, is all that you need to accomplish what God has called you to do. So instead of focusing on what you don't have, I want you to ask, yourself, I want you to ask God, Lord, what have you already given to me? What strengths, what relationships or opportunities are right now in front of me? When you look at scriptures, God never called us to surrender what we don't have. God never called us to entrust to him what he hasn't provided to us yet. When you look at the feeding of the 5,000, it was the bread and it was the fish, and God was able to multiply that. So for some of you today, maybe you're thinking of a business opportunities. Maybe you're thinking that you want to restore your marriage, and you're thinking that I need to have ABC, I need to have these systems. But what is it that God has already given to you? And God is asking you to entrust to him what he's already provided to you, and start focusing on that. It's not a resource issue, but it's an issue of how you view your current situation. Step number 3 is to depend on God's strength, not your own. Just like Samson, our strength doesn't come from us. It comes from God. That's why it's important for faith-driven dads to not get distracted by the emails. And I know I'm guilty of this, to not get distracted by the ping on our phones, but to ground ourselves in prayer, to ground ourselves in Bible reading in the morning. And not just in the morning, but throughout the day, to pray continually, to stay connected with God through his Holy Spirit. Because we need that continuous renewing of our minds. We need that continuous renewing of our focus. Because a lot of our issues that we're facing is not because of our resources. It's because of where we're shifting our focus. Depend on God's strength, not on your own. And I know for us dads, we want to do our best for our family. We want to do our best for our wives. And for me, being one income, as our family grows, our expenses also grows. They've taken on more activities. We move our kids from public school to private school, and it added additional expenses to our family. So my wife and I, we felt that she's called to stay home. So we launched an online business. So we were doing that for a few years, but we felt that it was time to close it down, that it was not healthy for our family. And for many years, I'll be honest, I tried to do it on my own strength. And because of that, it caused unnecessary stress in our homes. I gained a lot of weight throughout the process because I was depending on my own strength and not God's strength. What is it that you need to surrender to God today? What is it that you're thinking that I need to hold on to this? Because we're forgetting the unlimited resources that God has for us. And because of that, we're so focused on what we lack, and we're putting unnecessary pressure, unnecessary stress, not just to us, but to the people who matter most to us. Depend on God's strength, not your own. And step number 4 is to take one bold step of faith. Now, having this discussion, I love it. I wish we can sit down, have a cup of coffee in person. Learning is easy, but taking action is difficult. What's one thing you can do today to step into God's purpose? It doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to be obedient. What is that one thing that you can do today to evidence that, you know what, I don't want to have that scarcity mindset anymore, but I'm going to trust God that he is more than enough. Now, for me, I share about that business that we were holding on to. I had to say no to that. That was a big step of faith for us. It was very scary because I'll be real with you. It wasn't just about closing the business, but there were some liabilities that we needed to pay. We had a team member. We had people that were depending on us with that business, and we had to take that bold step of faith. But through that, we saw how God has provided for us, that God was more than enough, that our issue was not the resources. The issue was our perspective. And we've seen how God continued to provide. We've seen how God opened up margin for me and my wife to connect more. Now I have more margin to be there for my son, to disciple him as he grows in his teenage years. I've seen how my daughters have grown more confident because I have more time with them. Not only that, I've seen how, because I've let go of those things, it opened up more opportunities in my workplace. It opened up opportunities for this ministry. What is that one bold step of faith that you need to take today? Now, it doesn't have to be something big. Maybe a bold faith that you need to take today is to pick up a piece of paper, open up your MacBook or your computer, and identify those lies. And confess that with your wife. Ask for prayer. Confess that with your small group of other guys. To ask for prayer, to ask for accountability, and take a next step. It doesn't have to be many steps, but take one step at a time. Now, here's the ultimate truth. Your identity is not defined by what you've done or what you lacked. Your identity is secured in who God is and what He's done for you through Jesus. On the cross, Jesus took all our failures, all our shame, and our not enough. And in exchange, He gave us His righteousness, His strength, and His victory. Just like Samson, your story is not over. God is still working in you, restoring you and equipping you for His purpose. It's not a matter of what you don't have, but it's a matter of how you see yourself, how you see your circumstance that's keeping you stuck from the life that God has called you, that's keeping you stuck from the marriage that God has purposed for you, that's keeping you stuck from being the most effective person that you can be in your workplace, in your ministry, in the lives of your kids. Now, here's the thing. I tell this story to my kids all the time. The hummingbirds and the vulture always sees what they're looking for. What do I mean by that? When you think about the vulture, it always sees dead things, right? It's always circling around dead stuff, gross stuff, and it always finds it. It's the same thing with the hummingbird. We had a hummingbird in our backyard and it's circling around something sweet, something that's alive, because it always finds what it's looking for. You and I face the same choice every day. You can either be circling over your mistakes, circling over what you assume other people are thinking negatively about you, or you can start shifting your focus and meditate on who God is, what He has already provided to you. Focus on what's in front of you, the blessings that you have in your job, the blessings that you get to serve in the ministries, the blessing that you have with your kids, the blessing that you have with your wife. I wonder how the quality of your life will change today, this week, this month, this next year, if you stop focusing on what you lack and start shifting your perspective on what God has already provided to you. Jesus said that He came that you may have life and life abundantly. That is the life that God called you to live. Your story is not over. Stop circling around dead things and start focusing on the light that God has already placed in front of you. And that's where you'll find strength. That's where you'll find purpose. And that's where you find the ability to serve the people who matter most to you. So friends, if this resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment below in the comment on YouTube or Instagram, wherever you're watching this, and would love to hear from you. And let me know, what is that one bold step that you're going to take this week? I would love to pray for you, really encourage you. And also, I started this Facebook group for us to connect more outside of this YouTube. This YouTube thing, it's a one-way communication, but I love to connect with you. So the Facebook group page is linked in the description of this video. Would love to build a community with other dads who are faith-driven, other husbands who are dads and husbands who are faith-driven, passionate about learning how to lead better, both at homes and the workplace. So would love for you to be part of that community. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Again, I'm praying for you. It's not a matter of what we don't have, but it's a matter of our perspective. And when we stop focusing on the things that we don't have and start focusing on what God has already provided to us, things will change. God bless you guys, and I'll see you next time.